time for us to start off with the first panel. And that's going to revolve around this one really hotly debated subjects these currently. So personalization versus privacy. And how do we use data without being creepy? And it's going to you're staying with me because I'm actually going to be running this panel as well. So firstly, let's just think about what I've just said, right? Personalization has come a long way from the days when it would just kind of put your name in the email title, okay? The modern marketer has got so much information about you, not just what you've been doing, but they can also now use psychographics to think about what are you actually thinking. And they can then use predictive stuff to say, and what you're going to do next, right? So let's think about that. You know, it can become intrusive if you're not careful. So how do you do it? What is enough, but what is too much? So let's go to my panel. And first off, let's do some introductions. So we start with Roma, and can we just do some introductions first?
Thank you, Mike. My name is Roma, and I'm very happy to have a chance to share my experience with you, the experience that I gained while working for different rocket ventures and also for Berlin Brands Group, formerly known as Sieradzk. I've been working for BBG for over 2 years now, and basically I joined the company when CRM was not existing. So it was a big challenge for me, I have to say. Maybe a few words about the company. So we are an international e-commerce operating globally with offices in Europe, in Asia, and also in US. We own 14 brands, and we are operating with web shops in over 40 markets.
Cool. Roma, could you just sort of highlight a couple of those brands that you're working for? Because I think that might make it more accessible for people to understand who's behind that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, it's 14, but I'm quite sure, especially in Germany, well known it's Klarstein. It's a brand with kitchen machines and all the products that you need for your kitchen, for cooking and so on. We have also Blumfeld with products for gardening, Auna with music products, and Capital Sports with sport products. So basically, when you visit our page, you can purchase all the products that you need to be happy, stay happy at home and around.
Particularly important currently with semi-lockdowns and the restrictions that we have. Excellent. Christian.
Sure, I can go next. So hey everyone, I'm Christian. Nice to be here with all of you today, and thanks a lot for the invitation. Despite being on previous panels, so thanks for that. Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of a company called Customlytics. What we do in a nutshell is consulting and hands-on support for all things around mobile marketing. Very much focused on the technology side of things. So we are the guys that you call to help with the setup of a CRM tool like MoEngage or of an attribution tool like Adjust AppSpy or whatnot. And then kind of connecting the dots, backing all of that. This is what we help with. And then in the long tail also helping with marketing strategy, campaign management, both paid and unpaid. So yeah, everything that you need to promote a mobile app is what we do. We're based here in Berlin, small company, 20 people, and that's kind of about it. And I think to sum up my professional life in one sentence is that, well, I've never done anything else than app marketing, really. Started at the place where Tobias is now at Delivery Hero back in the days in 2013 as kind of, well, the first mobile marketing guy. And then worked on a lot of topics. That was a great ground to learn stuff, and then started the company in 2016. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Happy to be here with you today, hoping for some controversial thoughts.
Christian is always looking for controversy, and I'm pretty sure with some of the people on the line, you'll probably get some. So Tobias, can we hear from you?
Yeah, hi everyone, good morning. I'm Tobias Lüder. I'm Senior CRM Manager and Team Lead for the European brands at Delivery Hero. I'm with Delivery Hero for 2.5 years now. And for all of you that don't know Delivery Hero, I was about to say food delivery, but actually we are doing a lot of different deliveries now as well. So not only food, but also other verticals. It's all about quick commerce, so getting your order like in less than 30 minutes. That's the goal.
Cool. What other categories are you into now, Tobias? Well, we've seen over here, things like picking up your groceries, pharmacy. What kind of things do you guys also do?
You can also purchase diapers and everything that you need in a quick manner. So if you have a baby and you need a diaper, then yeah, you can ask us for this. So yeah, all kinds of verticals.
Perfect. Cool. Andreas.
Morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody in the audience. My name is Andreas. I'm currently working as the head of customer engagement at Project A. Project A, for those who don't know, is a Berlin-based venture capital fund focusing on early stage investments. Some of our investments, the ones you might know, include Boy Scooters, neobank Trade Republic, or health tech startup Cru from the Nordics, amongst many, many others. Previously, I was working for Berlin-based e-scooter company Sieradzk, now acquired by Bird. And I also had an extended stay at Delivery Hero, similar to Christian and Tobias. And we actually also had a quick, short overlap, Tobias and myself. Also, actually, Christian, I think, when I was still with Delivery Hero. At Project A, we specifically focus on building teams and infrastructure as we're focusing on the early stage of any kind of startups. But we also support a lot operationally in all customer engagement topics. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to the chat.
Cool. Great. Well, glad to have you as well. So let's get straight into the first question. And I'm going to come back to you, Tobias. So we'll talk about personalization versus privacy. And I think right now we're focusing on how it's received rather than how it's legally managed, if you like. But when does it become creepy? Is there a standard or like a well-defined line in your organization that you use? Do you just look at it on a campaign basis? And how are you defining those lines? How do you actually make sure that you're collaborating with different teams to make sure you get those guidelines correct?
So first of all, I would say that that it gets creepy if customers don't know where the data is coming from or why they see this message. For CRM, this is actually quite easy to handle because all of your communication can do some educational work as well. So you can always send people an email and they will know why they get this email. For example, you just did your first purchase and it's, hey, thank you for your first order. And then people know, okay, I got this because I just did my first order. Or for retention, it would be like, hey, we miss you. Then they know, okay, yeah, it makes sense because I didn't order in a long time. So I think that this is very important to also look at the target audience and like maybe see like how they would behave to like different types of communication. Maybe they're not that tech savvy and they don't know why they're getting this message. So I think education is key, and having clear messages is also key. Then obviously we're working together with like a lot of teams on this, like obviously the legal team. So GDPR and data privacy obviously is like the baseline for everything. And that's like basically no discussion about this. And then we're looking at personalization on a campaign level and more on like a customer segment level as well. So loyal customers, for example, you can be a bit more cheeky. You can do a bit more personalization. They would, I guess, even want this for them because they are special customers for us. So they want a bit more information. They want to have more fitted communication towards them. But obviously, yeah, it really depends on the customer audience and also the data that you have for the customer. If you have a customer that never ordered before, obviously you're very limited on your data. So yeah, you can't be too personalized about this. So we're looking at this on a campaign-based level.
Sounds to me like you guys focus on first-party data then, Tobias. Based on the fact that obviously if you buy third-party data, you could actually do some creepy stuff as well.
Yeah, exactly. So basically right now we are like using mostly data that basically the customer gives us voluntarily, like the order behavior, the time of the day where they order, or for example, the preferred cuisine. If they order pizza every time, then we know, okay, we shouldn't send them like a burger campaign, for example.
Sure.
I might actually already have something to add here, Mike, if I might.
Say again?
I might already have something to add here, if I might.
Go ahead.
So first controversial statement incoming. So adding to what Tobias said, I would even go as far and say that there is something like an unnecessary level of personalization to messages that you can do. So Tobias said kind of two kind of things to look at to, not make messages creepy, which is like, explaining where the data comes from or like having the customer know where the data comes from. But I think also there's this thin line with messages where a message can be overly personalized to a level that's unnecessary, and that makes it creepy. So what I'm thinking here is really this, I keep repeating myself, but this is really the stuff where it's like, oh, like, why do I even want to use first name in this whatever push notification or similar stuff, where I'm like, does it really help with the conversion rate? Probably not. So as I see it, the whole personalization game is not about collecting a lot of data and then being like, oh, hi user, by the way, this is all the data that I have. Look at my funky personalized message with all the data that I have. The game is much more about having the data, using it in a reasonable way, educating your campaigns from it, but not being like all out in the face of the customer with all the information that you have, because that for sure is going to lead to like weird stuff. So I would go as far as saying there's like an overly, there's like an unnecessary kind of level of personalization, sometimes even messages, which is not even helpful at all.
Yeah, I would like to maybe.
So, oh, sorry, Roma. Just very quickly, we've had a couple of questions come in, both of which we are going to be covering anyway. One about how we handle things about subscription, unsubscription, data privacy. So we're going to cover that anyway. So, but it was quite interesting that you brought that up, Christian, because one of the things I was going to do is let's have a round of when things go wrong. But first off, I'd love to hear from Roma and from Andreas about what they're doing.
Yeah, so basically what we do, we are very transparent, because as a big company, of course, you can't just in a sneaky way collect the data from customers. So anytime we see someone coming to the shop, of course, then we have to inform them that we collect the cookies, and then they have to accept it, right? The same situation is with a newsletter. So if you register or you subscribe to the newsletter, you can also have, as a customer, as a lead, as a user, you can have an easy way to unsubscribe anytime. And the user has to know that he can change it in any moment of his of the process. And then we also have an app. So for the app, of course, I think it's very easy that the user has to first accept the terms and conditions before he registers to the app. And for this, of course, it sounds very easy, right? It sounds like, okay, if you want to use it, you have to do it. But it shouldn't be, of course, handled like that. So if you want to collect the data, you need to also kind of show the user, the customer, the benefits of that. Because they will be, I'm quite sure, because we are testing this as well, quite likely accept more things if they say that, okay, like if I accept the cookies, I can have personalized products in the first view when I visit the shop. If I accept newsletters, wow, I'm getting personalized offers. The good solution is to have a preference center, if we talk about examples, because then customers, users, leads, whatever you call, the people that basically are in touch and with your product, they can easily manage what kind of information they want to receive from you and what kind of data they give you. And transparency is, I would say the key.
Yeah, so I think that's some really strong points in there. And I think that kind of bleeds into some of the whole piece around how you manage the permission element, etc. I'm really interested to understand that in terms of actually, though you've got the permission, right? How do you actually manage then to ensure that what you're doing though is still relevant, it's not too creepy, it's not too much? You know, where would you see the boundaries around, you know, what kind of personalization you want to send out?
Yeah, I think the important thing is to also know your group. So you can't say that for everyone the same information is creepy or it's not, because from our perspective, you never have a limit of information. You can collect more and more every time. But you need to understand your audience, right? Because for people, I don't know, 50 plus, different things in marketing are creepy than for people that are 15 years old, because like young people used to give a lot of information and for them it's just normal. So I would say for companies that start with personalization, but not only, I would say the good solution is A/B testing and seeing how people react. Is it too much, or I can go further, I can offer you more? And also very important thing for us, especially for BBG, it's analyzing and getting customers' feedback, because it's very easy to see if they reply to your newsletters, if they reply to push notifications, like they try to contact the service, if they contact customer service and they say like, hey, why did you send me those, I don't know, products? And then we can easily see, okay, that was too much. Or we see that from A/B testing with different products, more customers decided to purchase because, I don't know, products that we recommended are highly connected to the last purchase. So being really in touch, I think in general for CRM, hearing the feedback from customers is very important, because this is something that creates the connection, right? The relationship, that it's our main goal.
God, makes total sense. Andreas, what have you got to add?
Well, when it comes to personalization towards the customer, I think it should always feel a little superficial. That makes the customer comfortable, that we don't know too much, and there should be a red line, as you questioned, which should be defined by the private space of the customer. That's something you should never tap into. He needs to have an understanding of like the data you've been using, of that he did share indeed with you, and it's not generated by some algorithms or doing some estimations. Because otherwise, if you cross that line and if you go into that creepy territory of knowing things that you actually should know or that he never actively shared with you, we'll just go into the zone where even more and more customers will drop out and stop sharing any kind of data with us. Which we're already running into, I think, to a large extent. So it's getting harder and harder for customers. But we need to be really careful with this, not going in that kind of danger zone, and make personalization especially in the field like marketing, feel like marketing and nothing else, because people are well aware. So we shouldn't really mix things up yeah.
Yeah, got it. I mean, certainly something that we see as a vendor is that there's a consistency from customers from all sorts of walks of life, where they're saying, look, you've got my data, right? You know who I am. Why you send me all this random stuff? But then there is that line between, hold on a minute, right? You know, I don't actually need you to be personalizing everything to the nth degree. And I think that's a good point about the creepiness. And I think, Roma, you were touching a bit. We've got a question here that's coming from an attendee, which says, good point about creepiness, about being different for different segments. How then do you manage these different privacy and personalization expectations? Because the brand obviously generally has one privacy policy that puts out there, right? So they're still gonna have that collection, but then how are you managing to almost segment how much you personalize to which different segments, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's not like we have a defined personalization for different segments. As I mentioned, we are still in a process of defining the perfect CRM setup, which I think it's never-ending story. But we test it. So we try, of course, like we have a lot of data and we find out new ideas like almost every day. And then we just test it and see, okay, like this unsubscription rate was a bit higher. Why? Because in the B version, we probably sent too much information. Then we also analyze the age of our customers. We analyze the gender. Of course, we don't have all the segments based on this information, but we try to find the perfect line for like the ideal contact way with customers.
Cool, makes sense.
Yeah, I would also add that. Sorry.
Tobias, go on.
I think that the data privacy obviously is the same for each customer. I think it just depends on what kind of data you're actually using in the end. So some customers, you can do more with them. You can ask them maybe for additional data if they want. So for example, we don't collect the birthday of our customers because we don't need it. But we could give them the option, and this is something we're doing in some countries where we throw them in in-app, like, hey, do you want to let us know your birthday, and then you will get a surprise on that day. Like, this is not information we need, but we can ask for it and then tell them exactly for what it's needed.
Yeah, that's kind of an interesting point as well, in terms of the fact that depending on your service, there's going to be different amounts of data you need. I mean, if I'm talking about Uber, You know, they only just need to know, like, you know, where I live and what my credit card is. That's really all they really need. But if I'm talking about something like Amazon probably know more about me than I do because of the range of things I can buy from them, right? So it's kind of one of those interesting areas. And I have another question from an attendee here saying, so what kind of communication are people generally using that encourages users to share their data gradually? So you're building on that relationship, so not just going straight in for the full marriage, if you like. You're going to have a couple of, you know, softer dates first. So what kind of communication do you think generally drives that ability to share their data gradually? And do you have any use cases or examples and campaigns that you've run that have worked in that way?
Well, me maybe. I don't think it's necessarily a task for the marketing folks to gather more data, but it can be a joint collaboration between marketing and product teams, where you build the user funnel in a way that it gradually grabs more data from the customer, maybe starting with the email, first name, everything, the birthday, and so on, so on. Then some behavioral information from just how he interacts with the application. Then you squeeze in a survey. You have certain levels of, it's not a paywall, but a content wall where you require more information to proceed in the funnel and go on, and kind of connect these two starting points of your product. And then gradually you can build the full picture of a customer. But it cannot only be marketing that drives that forward, really. It needs to be sort of a joint act between marketing, product, even tech, the analytics team to aggregate the information, but also customer care that can feed in a lot, that has a lot of information sitting there that go unused in most of the companies, really.
Yeah, makes sense. Have we got any other examples or comments on this?
Well, maybe a slight comment. So I think the story behind this question kind of already starts with you as the CRM guy going there and making up your mind of when it would even, like, this is the whole story behind priming even the push notification permission prompt. It's the same thing with any other kind of data that you want to collect, so to say. You always have to find the sweet spot between asking too early, where the customer hasn't built up the trust yet, or didn't understand yet why it's a good idea to give permission to this app to do something with them, and going too late, where you have very low consent rates resulting from that, because it's not a lot of users reaching that point. So somewhere in between there, and I think that's the story behind this. And I think as a general rule of thumb, the better you can explain stuff, the better it will work out for the customer. So that goes with push permission prompts, but it also goes with data collection, really.
Got it. I totally agree. I mean, my personal experience of landing on a website and immediately getting there, would you like me to send you some more information? I don't even know if I like your website yet. So, you know, how would I know whether I want you to keep in touch? Which takes us quite neatly to our next question, which is, and I'm going to start with you, Roma, because I think you've already started to articulate this, is how do you actually approach consent from your users? And then how do you kind of communicate with them? So how do you make sure you reinforce the fact that consent is actually there for the multiple touch points, etc.? And I think you also talked about having consent, you know, panels, etc. But I mean, if you could expand on that a bit, that'd be really useful. That's for Roma.
That's for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Should I repeat? Sorry. So how do you actually handling consent? I think you already started speaking on the topic, so.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, as I already shortly mentioned, like to get user trust, we inform them in every step about the information that we're gonna collect, why we're gonna collect it, and inform them also that anytime they can also kind of unsubscribe. So don't give us any more the permission of collecting the data. So maybe I will also summarize what I said before. So starting from the first touch point, like visiting the page, we inform customers about the cookies, right? This is something that from the legal perspective, it's also needed. So they have to know But it doesn't need to be like, you know, this very boring banner that says like, hey, we collect the data, this is cookie, accept or not. If not, you are out of the page. You can do it in a funny, I would say fluffy way, and that for customer is gonna be also interesting, or like it's gonna be something that he will accept to see more from you. But from the other side, if you promise him something, I don't know, deliver personalized offers, deliver, I don't know, just offers for him, you need to also do it. Because then if you promise something, but you don't deliver it, of course, you lose the customer. For newsletters, opt-in, opt-out. So you can't just say that you're gonna send the newsletters and the customer, the user, the lead, he doesn't even know from where you have his email address. So it has to be clear, and there has to be always a clear way of explaining how this subscription process works from legal perspective. So for us, like marketing, legal, we have to work very, very closely to always see if we are not too creepy. And push notifications, yeah, for customers, I think cell phone right now, it's something that they always have with them. So they see this as something very, very personal. So if you want to send push notifications, what is great, because you can always, I don't know, talk about the weather and then promote your services or the products, or I don't know, mention the birthday, ask about this, how they feel. It's great, but you also need to inform them that you're gonna do it, because for many users, this kind of information, very, very personalized, can be easily treated as something very, very creepy. And this is something would be also through our CRM activities.
So what I'm hearing is ask at the right time, be very transparent about what you're going to do with the data, and do what you say you're going to do with the data.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Tobias, do you have anything to add to that? Sorry, Roma. Do you have anything to add to that, Tobias?
Yeah, I would say I'm thinking of push prompts. So for example, when you get this notification, hey, do you allow push notifications? Or you have the prompt for location, like, hey, can we use your location while you're using the app? We always try to tie those to some positive events so that people are more likely to actually click accept on this. So for example, after the first order, we just ask them, hey, can we use your location? And obviously it makes sense for the customer because, hey, you're going to deliver something to me. So it makes sense that I can track the order and so on. So it makes sense to click this, or I accept push notifications because I want to receive the order status for something. But you have to be careful with this because you have to look at your business and where your customers are right now. Because for example, if you do it like this and you have the prompt after your first order, but your business in general is struggling with people that set up an account, but they don't actually make this purchase, then this is obviously way too late. And you have to do this on session start and get the permission earlier, just because you need to communicate with them and maybe drive them to do the first order. So you should always keep in mind your own business instead of like blindly following other best practices, because they can be really different. But I would always recommend doing this to positive events, like rating like one of your products, for example.
Sure, got it. So again, so what I'm hearing there is balancing the needs of the business, again, context of when you ask, against obviously what drive higher numbers of subscriptions, but isn't necessarily the right time to do it. Anything from you, Christian? I can see you nodding away. You normally have something just to mention, just talk about on this sticky topic.
No, I think the other set, all the stuff that I had on mind. I think the only thing it really brings me to is the big plot twist behind all the data privacy discussion that we have right now, which is that it's always like, discussed. And if you look at the laws and shit, it's always discussed how to, limit data collection and stuff for the sake of, data privacy and protecting the customer and blah, blah, blah. But the big plot twist here really is that also marketing and communication with the customer just becomes totally less useful for the customer by doing that. So in other words, all the data that we collect actually is also like helping with making advertising, which is not what we discussed today, but advertising and also client communication more useful. So you think about a world where, data privacy is limited to, well, let's say even worse than today, and you cannot really do anything anymore. That will also make customer communication very useless, essentially, because we don't have the data to say anything meaningful at all. So this is only the big, but this is almost a bit philosophical. So yeah, it's fine. We can carry on.
Yeah, we've got 40 minutes, not 4 hours this time, Christian, for the philosophical part of it. But no, I totally get it. You're right. I mean, there is that balance again between the legislation wanting to protect people and then people getting what they want. There's so many businesses offer so many things that unless you're helped to kind of find the thing you want, you can spend ages on a website and just not get anything out of it either. So it's an interesting one. Andreas, I'm going to come to you now because we've got some questions in the chat which I think relate to this area, but we'll start with the main question, which is, if you can provide personalized experiences to the user, then gathering behavior data is essential. But with GDPR, and we've just been talking about growing privacy concerns, they're starting to change, particularly things like the IDFA policy change, etc. So what do you see as the future for third-party cookie data and for user tracking, and how do you think marketers must adapt? There's a big question for you.
Well, big question, easily answered, I guess. Basically, third-party data is going to die in the long run. The only way right now to get third-party cookies is by making the user to accept that the cookie is going to be shared with external providers, and no customer or user will do that voluntarily. Some of them do, but the number of opted-in customers decrease and will always be decreasing. So we need to think about tactics and initiatives to move away from relying on that kind of data too much, really. It kind of means that you need to gather more behavioral data by yourself, and it should become first party based, basically your data coming from recurring users or customers. Personally, if you ask me, I don't really see much future in, for example, personalizing the first visit of customers relying on external data. And then how can marketers adapt? I think there's basically two things or two ways they have to adapt even in the short run. That's not even the long run, because it's already happening and it's just getting more dramatic as we speak, minute by minute, really. So for the advertising part, talking retargeting, you can just rely on the external providers purely. The tools they give you for targeting and running ads, they are amazing. The algorithms they provide, they don't need to have a lot of data input to provide a deeply personalized and targeted experience. And for you as a marketer, you don't really have to understand the secret sauce of the algorithms. You just give them a bunch of money, watch the CACs or whatever kind of conversion rate you're looking after for, try to optimize for that, define the targeting, and they do everything for it. You can just earn the fruits, lean back, earn the fruits, you're happy with that. That's all you want. And then secondly, on, let's say, more the data gathering kind of part, we as a company, or we all as companies, we generate huge amounts of data, like vast amounts. It's crazy. The problem is we rarely use it in a way to generate really actionable insights. Yes, we maybe create nice charts and graphs, but like we rarely run some sorts of business driver or detractor analysis and really understand how customers behave with or without our product and what's kind of the driving force behind it to then steer our marketing with it. So the second step really is gather the relevant data pieces internally as first-party information, and then put an analytics team on it, or if you are analytically minded, really crunch the information to in depth to understand what's going on and provide insights to your marketing team. That would be my take on the privacy concerning cookie captures, and a bit more.
It makes sense. It makes sense. Tobias, anything you want to add on that?
Yeah, I also think, like, I completely agree with Andreas on this one. I also think that that marketing needs to work closer with product on this, because product usually does research like a lot, like how users behave in the funnel, and you can get a lot of learnings from this, and then like this can lead you to make assumptions on customers as well, because marketeers usually they only compare their marketing data, A/B tests, and so on. They know, okay, like this push notification worked, for example, but I think if you collaborate more with the product team and you know where like the the user is usually going, and like the majority of users, how their journey is, then you can also improve this, and then you maybe don't even need third-party data for this.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Any more comments on that around this element? No, cool. Because again, the next couple of questions that I see in the chat, I think relate to a question we're going to ask anyway, which is, what are your thoughts on contextual targeting? What's your thoughts on contextual targeting in light of Google's custom intent audience feature, providing insights related to shopper intent based on search history, etc.?
Well, short answer, it makes a lot of sense. So this is exactly what I was referring to before when I said that, all this terribly bad data collection is actually pretty useful to display more relevant advertising to users. This is exactly what I was referring to. And like, yes, of course, it makes a lot of sense to tailor the, in this case, it's advertising, but also communication in the sense of what we're discussing today, towards what a user has watched before, towards what a user is interested in, towards prior behavior of the user, which would then educate my campaigns. So it makes a lot of sense. I feel sad about how this will become more difficult as the regulations become harder and harder around data privacy. But it makes a lot of sense. And for me, this is one of the, like, despite me repeating myself about how nobody ever died from a data privacy leak, this is like the second big, at least that I know of.
Talk to Delivery Hero or Lieferheld after the acquisition of Takeaway.
And well, it doesn't count. But yeah, I'm like, this is exactly the point where I feel like, oh, like, this is really going to deteriorate to become worse if we have less data. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We should do it. I'm not so optimistic about the future, but yeah.
Cool. Roma?
Yeah, maybe from our perspective. So like, from our results, it's not showing that this way of targeting is better or worse. So we are, I would say, eager to test new targeting methods as long as they are GDPR compliant. And I think it wouldn't be also bad to again switch back to this classical manual targeting.
What, so in terms of doing your segmentation and targeting that way rather than segmented based on personalized data? How do you mean by manual targeting?
Yeah, we have a different way of targeting customers. So of course, based on the very advanced data and based on the I would say very, very basic data. And for our teams, so we were testing different ways, right? So targeting customers based on the very basic data. So like, I don't know, age, gender, whatever it is. We are also open to test it again, because right now we are so advanced and we run into very complex campaigns, but it doesn't mean that this is the best way. Maybe going like a step back could be also a solution, since we don't know what for sure will happen in the future. Of course, something will change, but it's also hard to say for sure how it's gonna impact marketing.
Gotcha. Certainly, as a vendor, we see people going further and further into their micro-targeting. We enable it, right? The micro-targeting. And therefore, it always becomes an echo chamber, so the individual's only seeing a very small range of things, and the discovery can be lost, which is another element that could come out of over-personalization.
Yeah.
So we've got a question in the chat here, which is, so what are your thoughts about enabling users to review the data, and what impact does that have in terms of building trust between the brand and the consumer? To start with you, Andreas.
Very good question. As a customer, of course, I would say, yes, give me all the data you have and make it available, at least to me, in an easily to digestible format. As a company, I would probably say, okay, we can do that, but only upon request and not easily available. Because again, we come to this area where customer would freak out if they really understand what kind of deep level of information we have about each of them and how we use them to sort of predict certain things or understand behavior. It's a very thin line, I think. We should introduce ways of making data available to all of the customers, easily accessible and shareable. I think that's also part of the GDPR sort of framework in terms of data portability. But then it shouldn't be any default sort of button on your website or your app that says, okay, look at my data now. That should be on the home screen. It should be available, but it should be easily not easily accessible. But it does need to be the primary sort of focus on your privacy settings. Let's put it this way. But yeah, that'll be my take.
So if I might add something, so yeah, like as Andreas said, by law this is already the case today. So if a company is operating in the European Union following GDPR, they are legally bound to tell a customer what data they have on record for them upon request. Now that's the legal side. If you look at how companies, and I'm not talking any specific companies, I'm more like the industry average. If you look at what companies are actually doing today, I think very few have the processes in place to actually fulfill those requests. So I think generally when such request hits some company, this is the moment in time when the marketing people are sick for a day. So this is like when people go crazy. I think not a lot of companies have the capacity today to really pull this off in a proper way. I think what happens is that just somebody goes there, pulls an extract of what's there, and then sends it to the customer. But then again, legal situation is like this, so it is already the case that customer can request this. Should you make it available easily to the client? Well, tough question. Depends on who you ask, I guess. I mean, if you look at Facebook and all the controversy that they had about storing data about customers, even if they were supposed to actually delete it, that has a full story. That is a full story in itself. So I think a lot of companies are also a bit afraid of exactly this kind of scenario. What I would say is that you should make it available in the context of giving a customer the chance to actually define how it should be used and what kind of messages they should receive. So this is, I think, what they should definitely have in the product. So, have some kind of settings area where you can go there and say, yeah, like this is stuff I want to receive, and this is the data that I'm fine with you using for it. This is stuff you can do. Just going all out and having this, I don't know, menu point very prominently in the main menu of click here to see all the data that we have on record for you. I think this is not going to be so healthy for your business.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting point that you raised, because I wonder whether this is more in the minds of the legislators and the marketers than the individual. Because when I go to the pub and I say, oh, did you see that latest thing about, I don't know, Cambridge Analytica or something like that? Most people just go, whoop. That's literally their response. Well, did you know that? Can they? It's interesting to know whether it really has the impact that people think, if you like. I mean, clearly data can be misused. Clearly, I would have a strong opinion about it. Most people on this panel, but are we seeing that across the piece? Do you think everybody has a strong opinion about it, or do you think maybe there's, the legislation is almost slightly ahead of how the average person thinks, even though legislation is behind what you can actually do? Does that make sense in terms of proposition that I'm putting out there? Possibly not, because no one's responding.
No, it is. I just wanted to go again, but now I have to. No, but it perfectly does. Like, I think this is the whole data privacy topic is very much a topic that us working in this industry are very kind of familiar with. It's very like top of mind. We talk about it all the time. It's very, very prominent. But if you take the society average, I think most people like don't care, and even more so don't understand. Like that comes together. So in that sense, it's a bit sad to see. But again, the way that, of course, our legal system works, if you look at the, like, you know, it's if you look at this funny guy that is the Austrian guy that was the one that did this lawsuit that has now led to a lot of new developments in the data privacy realm. It only takes one person to determine that it's their life mission to fight for data privacy, and that's enough to change a lot of things. But I would definitely go there and say it's not a topic that's like hugely discussed or hugely present in the general society. I would say that's not the case.
Cool. Okay. Look, just conscious of time, so we're going to wrap up after the next question. So I just want to put it out there that Customlytics, as already explained, that they are an agency that can help you look at your apps in general, and they are offering a free app analysis for their app doctors, I believe they call themselves. So there's a poll, and if you want to answer on the poll, you can actually sign up for a checkup in terms of how well your app is working. So just while we're just before we wrap up, then, in terms of, I've got one or two more questions I want to cover, and I think there definitely is a scenario whereby in the modern world where people give people so much data voluntarily, like onto Instagram, etc., it's interesting to understand where that line lies, and sometimes it isn't really where the legislators or we think it is. So I've got a question here from ICE, and it is, what is the best approach to zero-party data collection, which I believe will be the new norm for advertisers? Throw that one out there. So shall we repeat the question, or did you hear it?
I would eventually say that it's absolutely needed, and you should do it right now. If you don't collect any first zero-party data, then you should start either by implementing it into your application or by surveying. Lots of people love to speak. If lots of people have an opinion, and they're very much willing to share if you ask the right questions. So it's a relatively easy and inexpensive way to gather information. Then just depends on the scale and at which level you get these. Do you get 10 feedbacks a month, or 100 or 1,000? And then generally the approach is like, I would say similar to dating. You don't go for a date and ask for the house keys on the first night, but you might ask for the phone number or some personal details. How was your last vacation? What are you up to next week, and so on. So you gradually progress in terms of asking more detailed, getting more detailed information as you tighten the relationship with the customer. And that's a very gradual process, but the deeper the connection, you more are allowed to ask, the more you learn about him. So that kind of would be the without going into depth, the overall approach towards zero-party data. You don't do it right now, and start slowly, but build up on what you already have.
And just a very quick one, a very, very practical question, which has just popped up, which is, could you please help us with some suggestions about handling unsubscription for SMS? Tobias, have you got anything on that?
Yeah, so we're doing it in some countries. Obviously, you have to have consent for sending SMS notifications, and sometimes it's even tied to your business. So you send SMS updates for whatever service you have. What we're doing is we are having an unsubscription link in the SMS itself. So in every SMS that we are sending, we have like a short link that you can click, and then you can unsubscribe from the SMS, basically similar to email, basically. So you will never get an SMS from us again. At least promotional. Transaction is a different story.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks very much for that, Tobias. We've come to the end of our time. So what I just want to give the marketers is a very quick opportunity. If there's any parting words you want to share, what you think is your key takeaway from your peers from the session. Could start with you, Roma.
Unfortunately, I couldn't hear the question.
Sorry, that was my fault. So we're coming to the end of the time. So have you got any sort of parting questions you'd like to, parting comments, or anything you want to share in terms of things you think you've learned from the session?
Yeah, I would like to say that it's extremely interesting that although we come from different companies and we deal every day with different products, we have the same struggles and we have the same results. So it's great that anytime there is a question, there is like an open topic popping up, we all have to struggle with the same. So like, no matter what happened, be relaxed, because if there are troubles, we are all in the same troubles. If if there is solution, we can all find it.
Got it. Got it. And Andreas, anything from you?
It's a good validation to see that all the other companies have similar troubles with collecting and processing data. But it also highlights that we do need to put more efforts into this and solve this in the long term, beyond ways of how we can imagine right now. Maybe, I don't know what's beneath zero level data or zero level cookies. Let's see what we can come up with there to give for a targeted experience. And I think that will definitely be a challenge of the next year. It's already a challenge of this year, but it will keep on being one. And whoever wants to solve it, get in touch with me, please. If you have a smart solution, let us know, and then probably we can discuss this in another panel next time to what crazy solutions people came up with.
Got it. Continuing the round then, Tobias.
Yeah, I would say that if you're worried about creeping out your customers, then just before you send the campaign, just put yourself in the shoes of the receiver and just see if it would be too creepy or if you really need this additional data that you want to send. So yeah, this would be my best advice for everyone that's concerned about this.
Yeah, I like that one. I like that one, definitely. Christian?
Very briefly, keep calm and communicate on, I would say. I see a lot of companies that are, reverting when it comes to the increasing data privacy measures, that revert back to this notion of, oh, but like it's so hard to understand what's even allowed, so I will not do anything. That's wrong. You can still do stuff, and you should, get the most out of the current situation. Some of the things that are kind of changing or that are becoming into effect are also actually an opportunity, because they make you think of different ways of how you did stuff before. So that's good, and just keep on communicating to your customers, as Tobias said, in the way that you would expect it if you would be your own customer.
Great, thank you. So thanks very much, everybody. I mean, what I'm hearing here is context is important, transparency is important. Think about whether you need to personalize, and if you are personalizing, make sure you're using that data well, because that's how you drive a good experience for the customer. And the theme that came out a little bit was around also understanding from a service perspective, not just the outcome perspective. So as marketers, we might be interested in open rates, we might be interested in product views, we might be interested in added to cart, sales, but what else was going on? What other experiences happened, and how do you actually measure that within the overall experience that the brand brings to the customer? So thanks very much for you guys, and thanks very much to our audience. It's been a really useful session, and we will speak to you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye now.